Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Fresh Outlook. It is one of the biggest financial investments most Americans will ever make, going to and paying for college. But with salaries appearingly stagnant and millions of Americans out of work, including many recent graduates, what strategies can students and parents employ to ensure the education sought leads to results? I am joined by the Fresh Outlook think tank, Stephen Sirot, co-founder of the College Benefits Research Group, Janet Loren, partner and certified educational planner for the College Benefits Research Group, and Dr. Jose Lopez, professor of physics at Seton Hall University. Stephen, I'll start with you. What's the number one thing a parent can do when planning for college?
Be proactive. We see that the process has evolved from the time that we went to college to now we're sending our kids to college, and parents are relating their experience to what should be done today, and it's so vastly different. Obviously, the cost of college has gone up tremendously, between 5 and 9% a year now for going on 30 years. But the amount of financial aid that's given in both need-based aid and merit-based aid has also gone up significantly. And so you need to be proactive in understanding that part of the process if you really want to make not just the right academic and social choices for which college your students should go to, but how are we going to pay for this?
Janet, picking up on what Stephen's saying, when should parents start planning? From the time their child is born?
No,
Okay.
they can go a little bit farther than that.
Okay.
But we actually work with students starting in 9th grade to really get them to be college aware, we call it. So 9th and 10th grade, college aware. 11th and 12th grade, college ready. And about that time, we really start to talk about what the colleges are about, what you might want to study, where your strengths are. And that's what we start to talk about with them. As we get into the upper grades, then we start talking about standardized testing and all the different aspects of the college admissions process.
Jose, why is college so expensive? You have someone like yourself who teaches how many students in one class?
I have, the biggest class I teach right now is 45, but the biggest one we'll teach in general physics can get up to 160, nearly 200 students.
So you've got 200 students all paying anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 a year to go to school.
Right.
A college professor who makes maybe $100,000 a year.
I wish, but okay.
I wish, okay. Why is it costing so much?
Because college has really evolved. It's not just a teaching institution. There's all these other experience learning environments there. There's a country club also basically there. I mean, we have a lot of activities that students do, whether it's movies. I was just discussing earlier, this past Friday, a week ago Friday, we had the Back to the Future. We had the DeLorean on campus. I'm pretty sure that cost money to have it at Seton Hall, you know, so the students could sit in it and see what the DeLorean was like.
Let me play
So it's
devil's
all these
advocate.
things.
Aren't there better venues for that type of popular cultural display than at a university?
Well, I mean, I think it's part of socialization. I think one of the things that universities have done now is they allow students to build, not only learn things and learn experiences, but also have experiences that are different from what they could have in any other kind of context. I mean, the fact that you could think big thoughts or small thoughts for that matter, but usually big thoughts, it's not a luxury you have when you're working 9 to 5 at let's say a franchise somewhere, flipping burgers. So I think it's an environment there that you're paying for, and then if you're going to have counselors and all of these different things, all of these different activities, that's all going to drive up the cost.
Okay, Stephen, talking about big thoughts and small thoughts, when I went to school, a lot of it was you need to get a Renaissance type education. You needed to be an educated person, and very little emphasis was on hard skills. I studied journalism. We never dealt with the camera. We never dealt with video editing. That was considered a craft, not part of the science of being a journalist. Do you think schools need to do a better balancing act with teaching people to be broad-minded and having those big thoughts that Jose talked about, and also learning skills that'll get them a job?
More and more so, you hit the nail on the head. That's the trend of what they need. They have to have the skills to be ready to work in the world and be successful when they're done. And coming out with a very broad general degree for so many of our students is not getting them that return of what they expected when they were going in. And when we look at the trend, we were touching on how much more expensive it is to go to college. And I think you really touched on it, that sure, they're putting more money into the experience and maybe even more into garnering the technical skills that they need. But I'll ask the professor, did your salary go up between 5 and 9% for the last period of 10 years or so? Certainly not. A big part of that drive is that they could then get a pool of money to try to use that strategically to get the students they want to actually come. That's a big part of why the cost has also gone up.
And part of the inflationary process with colleges, I believe, is the fact that students can borrow almost unlimited amounts of money, get financial aid. It's like a car. You walk into a car dealer, they ask you how much can you afford to pay each month. That will limit the amount car manufacturers will sell a car for. If I can say, well, I can afford $400, but I'm going to get a Pell Grant for another $500 a month, and the state is going to give me $500 a month, so I can give you whatever that's, $1,400 a month for my car. Thanks, Professor. Am I right? If we did get rid of some of these subsidies, that maybe college costs would go down, there'd have to be a better way? Because the schools aren't going to close.
Right, they're not. And one of the things we talk about is a realistic look of what you're getting out of your education. It's so important that these students now learn to think cognitively. They have to be able to think, take complex ideas and be able to really understand them.
They should be taking coding in school. I mean, it seems like a part of the problem is also the students. They look at what they can be taken, they look at the course loads, they go on ratemyprofessors.com and they're like, you know what, I'll be a comm arts major. And 90% of those comm arts majors will be flipping burgers after their 4 years of mind-broadening experiences, because there aren't that many jobs in comm arts. There are jobs in IT, however, but those are the tough courses, the ones that students don't want to take necessarily unless they happen to be a motivated student.
Right, but they do have to learn those skills. Adaptive thinking, being able to go beyond coding and find, how can I improve this? What's the innovative thought here? They have to learn those skills as well as the true academic skills and the skills that they need for other things. So,
Jose, do you think people who study sociology, anthropology, psychology, 9 times out of 10 are wasting their money?
No, I think to an extent the experience there, as I was saying, is a key thing. I mean, what we would call, people label it and like it's a bad thing, the soft skills. I think that's a necessity. Whether you're a sociologist, anthropologist, or a humanist in general, I think that's actually a necessity. I mean, I see lots of engineers, I work with scientists and stuff that are almost robots. And that's not what we need. I mean, we emphasize that also in the sciences now. I mean, if you have a great idea that's going to revolutionize the next, iPhone, if you can't communicate it like a Steve Jobs was able to do, articulate it, then I mean you're not doing well. And I think universities are really putting a lot more emphasis on that. What we call the core classes, and at Seton Hall we have speech classes and oration and being able to talk and articulate. That's a necessity thing. And read and process and all these different things are key. I mean, it used to be you went to college and that just going to college opened the door. Now you need more. You need more than that. You need the know-how that you get out of the education there, but you also need these sorts of skills, these cognitive skills.
I agree in part. I can tell you as a speech professor, the kids that walked into my class knowing how to give a good speech could do it without my help, and the kids who couldn't do it with all my help if I sat by with them every day of the week at work.
I would argue with you, Logan, that creativity is something that you can acquire. It might not come totally naturally, but the more you practice at it, the more you've gotten. I mean, you weren't born a great journalist. I mean, I think the many years of practice and the different things, it comes from that, and it's got to start somewhere. Yeah. And if you have the right context, the right environment, which is what you try to create at a university, what a professor tries to create, then I think that could be a game changer. It could change a life.
No, I agree that there has to be a fine balance between being a craftsman and being somebody who knows how to think and develop the craft. Stephen, let me ask you a little bit. What are some practical things people can do to pay for college nowadays? It used to be when Jose and I were going to school, we could work part-time and pretty much pay through college as we go. Can't do that anymore. Yeah, summer jobs. But that was when college was $3,000 or $4,000 a year. Now it's 10 times that.
Well, it's don't just follow the traditional thinking Really since 2007, 2008, we saw a real huge uptick in the number of students applying to state schools because they thought, well, they're subsidized from the state. I could get a quality education for a lot less money by going that route. And while that may be true, it's become more difficult to get in to those schools because of how many more kids are applying and to get in the programs they want to actually major in those schools. And many of the schools that tend to give bigger awards, whether it be need or merit, aren't the state schools. They're the private schools. So it's not what the sticker price is. If you know where that student positions at that school and you relate your family's financial profile to that school and how they give money, you might find that a very expensive private school ends up costing you significantly less than a state school.
You can go to Princeton, in some cases cheaper than Binghamton if you are a good student and you don't have a lot of means. Tell me a little bit about what your company does.
Well, we do really a holistic process, and that's where we want to focus on what is the right academic, social, and financial college plan for this student and family. And so it's working with that student one-on-one to coach them to find the right schools, build a list where they're applying to between 8 and 12 schools, and they know why. It's criteria based. It's not just the ones you've heard of and where everyone from their high school is going, and helping coach them to be the strongest applicants they could be to get in those schools. And two, relate that to the college financial game plan of how we're going to be able to afford this, what's our budget, how do we strategically plan to get the most discounts that we could through aid, and make sure that this is a realistic plan, not just for the first kid, but if there is more than one kid, we've got to keep them in mind as well. Okay, are we going to be able to offer the same kind of opportunities to his brother and sisters that we did for him?
Janet, what type of best advice do you give parents who come to see you for a consultation?
I really tell them, don't look at just brand name schools, don't look at the rankings, don't look at all of that. We have to find the best school for that specific child. And that means how they learn, what type of community that school has, and the academics at that school. We want to position them well. We want them to be successful there. So that's a big part of it, and that they understand the difference.
That they get a good fit. Jose, what I used to tell my students first day of class was this: internship, internship, internship. I said that is the only way you're going to get a job.
Absolutely.
And when you're doing your internship, do the best job you can possibly do on your internship so you get hired. Because the next employer is going to say to you, well, why didn't you get hired from your internship? That, in a very competitive field, is your best advantage to get a job. Do you agree?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, experience, learning new things. I mean, learning happens outside the classroom. I mean, in our science, in my field, for example, in physics, we encourage a lot of our students to work doing physics. Actually, not only learning about it in the classroom, but going and working with me in the laboratory, with my colleagues in the laboratory, and working and spending the summers, instead of going down to the Jersey Shore, for example, spend it doing an internship working at a national lab, for example. Absolutely, you can't buy that. And this is the right time. This is the time where you're learning and growing, and there's nothing really holding you back at that moment.
You also learn things going down.
And a lot of internships are paid these days too. So,
but you also learn things going down to the Jersey Shore as well.
That's true. That's true.
Some of the best stories I have. Another day I will share with you. We have about 45 seconds left, 15 seconds each. Best advice to parents.
Like I said, be proactive, be realistic, and work with competent experts that are there to help. Figure out how to pay for it and find the right school for your kid.
Janet.
Students, definitely look at your strengths and what you love, and let's see if we can get you to that career, whatever that career is. If you follow those two things, you're going to get there.
Do what you love, money will follow. I always believe that. Jose, your best advice?
Absolutely. Mom and dad will always love you forever. Whatever decisions you make the decision as a student, and obviously work with your parents for it, but it's your decision, it's your life.
Exactly, and just don't take the easiest major, because it'll become a hard major if you're not interested in it. Jose, Janet, Stephen, thank you so much for your time. When we come back, Trick or Treat, a look at Halloween in the year 2015, plus other topics in our lightning round. More on that after this.